Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode, our pre-World Cup episode of ESPN Cricinfo Power Play. I'm Valkerie Baynes. I'm joined by my co-host Firdose Moonda, and we've got a very special interview to bring to you this week, and it's with South Africa wicketkeeper Sinalo Jafta. Firdose, what did you make of our chat with Sinalo? I found it really fascinating, but what were your big takeaways, do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Velks, and welcome to all our listeners. Sinala is just such a fun person. She's so real, she's so authentic, she's so raw in sharing her story, the things that she's been through, whether it's social media abuse, rehab, form in the team, the struggles of the team. So I think just having a conversation with somebody who's kind of like your friend, but who's also about to play in a World Cup. And, that's the biggest thing of a sports person's career. So just to see someone like her being able to share quite private moments, I guess, with us as she prepares for one of the biggest months of her career was really, really cool. I always love chatting to her. And of course, the vibe in South Africa around major tournaments is huge at the moment. So we're all so excited. And you can really feel the hope, I guess, the hope and the dreams that are coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the question that you did put to her, is this going to be South Africa's year? But let's take a listen to that and everything else that she had to say.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of ESPN Cricinfo Power Play podcast. It's the one before the Women's World Cup. We are so excited, myself and my co-host Valkerie Baynes, and we're joined by the life of the party, South Africa's wicketkeeper Sinalo Jafta, who is going to talk to us all things major tournament cricket. Sinalo, this is a topic of conversation that South Africans love. It's got to be the one, it's got to be time. I have to open up by asking you, is this the World Cup where South Africa finally get their hands on a trophy?
As a team, like in my home language, they always say "Es tatu ngakati," which means the third one surely has got to be something. And Coach Mantla coming in has said, if we don't believe it, might as well just stay at home. So I think everyone on the flight knew what was at stake and what is at hand. And I mean, it's not going to be easy, but we as a team are just looking forward to that journey. And potentially on the 2nd of November, we there on the final.
Yeah, and let's go back a little bit. South Africa have had such an amazing 2.5, 3 years in the game, really. The women, of course, leading the way with those T20 World Cup finals, two of them. But we've also had the under-19 girls reach a final of a World Cup. We've had the men's team lift that World Test Championship mace, which was a phenomenal achievement. You've been in the system a long time. You know a lot about the way South
Mm.
African cricket works. What's happened in the last couple of years? Why are things going so well all of a sudden?
I don't think it's all of a sudden. I think the things that were put in place before we could even see them as players. I think we always give accolade to the players, but we always forget about the people behind the scene. I think the brains and saying this is where we want the teams to be at a given stage. And I think when you look at the progression of it, you might say cheapers over the last 3 years. But if you really look at it and making sure all the squads were good, the young players coming in, we always see the beautiful picture, but we forget about when it was tough, when the young players had to get experience, and then they're the same ones to pick up their hand in in crucial games. And I always say, like, to win games, it doesn't take individuals; it takes the collective, and by that, it takes different individuals lifting up their hands at different phases of the game. Yeah.
And similarly, in terms of World Cups, I mean, we can say, it's time, the next one's coming, but what can you guys take from the fact that you've had two T20 World Cup final appearances now in the last two? What lessons have you learnt from those that you think you can take forward going into One Day World Cup?
I think the one in Cape Town, it was more like, okay, cool, we can get there. And I think the one in Dubai really hurt. It hurt because we knew what we could do potentially as a team. And I think straight after that World Cup, Coach Mantla came into the team and he said, girls, here's my vision. I just want you guys to literally trust me and trust the process. I will give you guides month to month. Let me worry about the World Cup. You guys just have to tick the various boxes every single month. And that's what we've done really well as a squad. People might say the results weren't appealing to the eye, but like what he was doing is was looking at the various combinations. I always look at the guy and I'm like, jeepers, imagine having such a team and also having to make sure that the whole squad understands what the different roles are. So I think when you look at that, I think the maturity amongst the players has been one where you can be like, okay, cool. Each one knows what they have to do at different phases. So it's been really brilliant.
Sinalo, you played under Hilton Mureng, who was long serving and was around for well over a decade. And then there was the interim in Dylan Dupree. But Mandla Mashimbi, our listeners might not know, he comes from the men's setup, a very successful coach with South Africa's Titans franchise. And this is really his first gig in the women's game. What has he been like as a coach, and what has he brought that's different after such a long time of having one coach, and then I suppose that little phase where you guys didn't really know who was going to take over?
At first when they announced he's going to be the head coach, I literally looked at this big tall guy and I was like, oh gosh. Like everyone's like, oh gosh, what is he going to bring? Because you probably think as soon as he entered the change, he was like, bah. And then we actually got the opposite. And it's like, no, I care about the human first and the cricketer second. And literally everyone was like, huh? And it's like, no, if you're not happy before you cross the boundary rope, how are you supposed to bring the results? And when you look at Coach Hillas, he was like literally when I was still a baby, like kind of like grooming me. And I also got to a point and I was like my worst enemy, if you want to put it that way. But like when he came in, he was like, Jeff, I'm going to give you a responsibility, and how you take it is completely up to you. And I've received it in a very positive light. It's actually shaped my game even more. When I go to training, I've got that hunger now. Whereas before it's like, do I really? I reached a place of complacency and comfortability. Now with Coach Mandla coming in, he's literally ruffled all my feathers. And there came times when I was like, jeepers, am I even in the right place? Like, like that whole like, I'm uncomfortable. Then it's like, good, I want you there. Like, I'm going to coach you like shed a tears. Like, no, I'm happy with your progress. And I'm like, I hate it. It feels like I can't do anything. It's like, no, you're on the right path. And like now, and I look and I'm like, obviously where I am sitting now, I was like, I think I would go through that journey again, even though it was like tough, but I would 100% go through with it. And I mean, he was really firm on me getting fitter. He was really firm on me making sure that I had responsibility with the bat. And I mean, he said, you're going to go top 6. And I was like, I've always batted 8 in the setup. Yeah. And he's like, nope, you're going to go in at 6. And I was like, huh? Then he's like, no, we're going to teach you and coach you. And I was like, and I had to understand that it wasn't going to happen overnight. It was going to be a journey. It was going to be a progression. And now I can actually go and tell you about my batting game. Whereas before, and I'm like, I'm only guaranteed about 18 balls an innings. So what am I going to do with that? And I think now it's more like, okay, I have a responsibility with bat and glove. What are we going to do? And I'm loving where I'm at currently.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about this progression of yourself as a batter. You also progressed so much as a person. And I think a lot of us who know you and who've seen you know that you spoke to us after that 2023 World Cup and told us about your very difficult journey through social media bullying and rehab. And Coach Hilton was around at that time. It's 2 years on now, and I'm sure life has changed completely. Was that also an important part of your growth, was having the right people in place to say, this is what you need to do now if you want to get better?
No, 100%. Like, I only came to realize that I've only learned what being a professional athlete is in the last 2 years. Before, all I cared about was just the lifestyle of what the game brought. Now it's more like, how do I hone into my task? How do I make sure that I'm very OCD in my prep? How do I make sure that I literally silence that outside noise? Whereas before I invited that outside noise. Now it's more like, okay, cool, you have a bad comment. Like I always wish, like if someone comments, I was like, can I take you for a cup of coffee? Like that's literally my first my first thing in my brain. I'm like, it's not worth it. And I just park it. But I think the growth in that side whereby they used to affect me really bad, but I'm like, but you're also a human. So I must have understanding in that. And when I look at that, it's like being professional, being everything is to also understand where other people are coming from. Like I can't control you and what your beliefs are, but I can control what I can control. I really don't have control of other things. So that's where I think the peace comes from. It's like saying, okay, cool. That's not in my control. Moving right on. So I've really worked hard on that over the last year. And I mean, we're going into a World Cup. We know once we get to the World Cup, it becomes 10 times more. So if I'm going to be worried about what someone is typing, then I've literally shot myself in the foot, and all the prep that I've put in is going to go away. Like, it's going to be like throwing all the prep away, whereby I've worked really hard. And yeah, I've just had a really good support system. So it's been beautiful.
Sinalo, you sound like you're in a wonderful place. But I guess for some of our listeners who, don't know your story, I mean, 3 years ago, just months ahead of a home World Cup, you checked yourself into rehab. Can you just tell us a little bit about that journey? And can you compare yourself as a person now to that person then?
Like, the addict brain is very manipulative, selfish, self-centered. Sometimes I'll catch myself. I'm like, we can't go back there. Like, I will still, like, people always think that once you put the bottle down or whatever your drug of choice is, all your problems are done. They don't understand that it's literally continuous work. My role in this is always to be of service to other people. It's really not about me. Being honest in everything I do, being willing, and just it's the how, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I think those are the three things. And when you look at cricket, it's literally carbon copy. If you're not honest, if you're not open-minded about learning about your game, and if you're not willing, you're not going to go anywhere. And I think when I look at that person that entered rehab, that person was really insecure. And when I look at this person now, it's more like we've changed. But it's also like an opportunity to make people understand that everyone deserves a second chance. Whether you're in cricket, whether you in whatever, everyone deserves a second chance. And I think it's literally being brave and saying, I need help. And yeah, it's a funny thing because I'm actually celebrating 3 years during the World Cup again. And it's like, every time I was like, jeepers, I think I've got this thing with World Cups. Every World Cup is like a milestone. It's all written in the stars, like, got out of rehab, World Cup final, Dubai 2 years, now in India 3 years. And I think the desire to drink is gone, but I think working each and every single day on my craft is what's more important.
Mm. You mentioned feeling more secure, and I've got to ask you, we've got a 19-year-old wicketkeeper in the squad, Karabo Miso, 17, I think she is, not 19. I've aged her
17,
before
yeah.
time. 17, who I guess people might look from the outside and think, okay, that's maybe the succession plan. Once Jafta's done, Miso takes over. Do you see it that way, or how do you see yourselves in the same 11? I mean, I've just spoken to Marizanne Kapp and Annery Dirksen, which is the same kind of thing, maybe when the one goes, the other one takes over the role. How do you see Karabo? Are you mentoring her? Is she a friend? Is she a threat?
Karaba's the same age as my brother. Well, my brother's maybe 2 years older. So every time I see her, I'm like, oh my goodness. The way they talk, I don't know. It's this generation. Like, the way I'll talk to my brother, the way I'll talk to her, it's like, no, I just got off the phone with him. Leave me alone. Like, you understand? Like, that lingo, and you're like, don't understand this language. But anyways, when I look at someone like her, like, I always want her to just keep her feet on the ground. She's got a long way to go in an international cricket career. And, I always tell her, like, competition is good, but I am not competing with you. Because I think as soon as you want to put competition in the same bracket as a cricketer, then it's you or me. But I don't want that, because at the end of the day, whether I'm playing or she's playing, we have to help each other grow, whether we like it or not. And once you have that partnership and also have that relationship, it makes everything so smooth sailing. And I always told her that, like, her age group, there's also another competition that she has to face, because I'm literally at the ending phase of my career, whereas she has to be in the system for a very long time, and more people are going to come in and out. So she has to be able to navigate through that. And obviously, like, people always say, yeah, but she has to. And I was like, guys, she doesn't have to do anything. She has to actually focus her own journey. You can't put a player and put a like and compare her. Like, I look at the Annery and Marizanne. You can't say Dirkie's going to become a Marizanne, because I feel like Anne Dirksen is a name on its own, Marizanne Kapp is a name of its own. And I think the same should happen, because I had my own journey to walk. Karabo Mesa is going to have her own journey to walk. And I mean, behind her, you have Philander, you have Simone Lawrence, who are also her teammates at the under-19. So that's another thing that the coaching staff in the future generation have to consider. And I mean, when we're playing at Lions cricket, we actually coexist and we play in the same lineup. So it's just incredible to just watch her journey. And I mean, she's someone that will just call me out of the blue to just ask. And I think I've created a safe enough space for her to be able to get to that point. And yeah, like, she bothers me with, can you please pick me up? And yeah, so I'm on that duty at the moment.
Talking a little bit about the different generations, and you've touched on social media there as well. And I guess social media posed a lot of difficulties for you earlier in your career, but you've also really embraced it to get your message out about, your journey and helping other people and sort of speaking openly about alcoholism and your struggles in the past. How important is that to you in terms of your off-field role? How important is that to you to be able to communicate and actually embrace social media for good and use it to help others?
Yeah, so the principles are very simple. So traction rather than promotion. So what I do put out is just my experience, strength, and hope. Really, it's not to say to someone, "You have a problem, get sober." No, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to push a certain narrative, but I am here to say that it is okay, because a lot of times I remember going into rehab, I was so ashamed. I was like, "What happens if people are going to judge me?" Like, oh. But now I'm saying it's okay. Me sharing that journey will potentially be the next person to pick up their hand. And I mean, substance abuse is so holistic. There's also mental health. So it ties into everything. It's like asking for help is really not a bad thing. That's really the message that I want to set forth. And I mean, so many players have taken time out of cricket. I just went to rehab. Other people have taken like a whole time out. Like, and I mean, like, I think that's beautiful, because you're actually saying to a child growing up, just like, it's okay. Even the best can get to that point. It's not like a chosen thing. And I remember AJ Brown from the Philadelphia Eagles. I covered quite a bit there. He said depression is a thing amongst athletes, but we're just so ashamed to say I am depressed. And he actually came out as depressed, and like the wave of people saying, "Oh, jeepers, we don't know. We just thought that you were acting out." So I mean, that already created awareness within that sporting code. And I mean, yeah, I think it's beautiful when players can just pick up their hand and say, "You know what, I've had enough. I need help."
But I do want to ask you, I mean, you mentioned other sport, and we're talking the Monday after the Springbok women unfortunately lost a quarterfinal to New Zealand, but really made history just by reaching that quarterfinal. We're talking in the same year that the South African women's national football team reached a semi-final of African Cup of Nations. Women's sport in South Africa, particularly now among a variety of communities, seems to be really thriving. And I think the message we're getting from women's sport is that we're trying to show that anybody can participate. We've got some women from really, tough backgrounds. Ayabonga Kaka, who's your teammate, is one of them. And they just seem to send out a real message of hope. So I want to ask you, I mean, you've done a little bit of commentary, you've been on television, you're very outspoken about things. When you look at women's sport around South Africa, what do you see? Do you see that message of, things are changing and maybe we're able to make a statement way better than anybody thought we could?
The one thing about South African women's sport, I'll give you this. When it comes to when it matters, we'll show up. There's this element of grit and determination. Like I remember when I was actually at the women's Springbok send-off, and just the language that they had was, we're literally going there to dominate our various roles. And you look at Nadine Roos, you look at Babalwa Lacha, and when you and Nosindi Sopoy, who is the most capped, and then when you look at those people and where they come from, their stories are so like cheaper. You are literally that 1% that they said they wouldn't make out, and you actually did. And when you look at the Banyana Banyana, you look at Andile Dlamini, who was in a shack during COVID because her heart just couldn't. So you look at those stories and you're like, there's no chance. And then I always look at it, but imagine the beauty of investing in your younger generation. We had mini cricket now coming into our game to saying, you know what, we're going to plow into the grassroots. I think as much as we want to say we're doing well at the big stage, but I think our biggest victory should be in the grassroots level. Whether it is club cricket, school cricket, varsity cricket, because those are going to be the feeding forces into the national team instead of just having SA, emerging, domestic. You're literally gonna have like a long list to be like, ooh, that kid is gonna be very good for under 19 cricket. Cheers, we're gonna take her. And then from under 19 cricket, you're plowing her in. And I mean, the academy has done so well. I mean, we've all been through academy. We've been there for 3-4 months in Pretoria. We didn't like it, but we understood what was at stake. But I think when you look at the progression of women's cricket in South Africa, I mean, women's sport in South Africa, it's something that needs to be studied because I don't think it's normal. How is it that you can go out there and dominate, and then when you look after the World Cup, you'll be like, wait, there's still kids that are working and they're still playing rugby. There's still kids that are working and still playing football. Cricket got it right by having the professional contracts, but the division lower to the Prem division still have to work and train. So when you look at the bigger picture, let's just say, like, let's just do the right thing in the grassroots.
Having the Home World Cup in 2023 was expected to create a legacy for developing women's cricket in South Africa. And it sounds like you're pleased with a lot of the things that you have seen. Are you happy? And is there a particular area that you would still like to see improved as a result of your success as a team?
Yeah, I think when I look back at my journey, I only went to varsity because of hockey. Imagine if a kid can say, I'm going to varsity because I got a full bursary for cricket. I think that is like my wish at this rate, because then that means that there's progression from high school into the next phase. Because then from high school, you have to wait to get a call up to emerging. Only a select few get that call up. So now imagine if you're playing continuous cricket, even though it's just for university, with getting an education. I think we always like take it lightly, but like I think education brings maturity, and it also brings that element of being able to learn your craft and stuff. So I think when you look at it like that, that is my biggest wish, whereby universities can actually now start rolling out full bursaries for young cricketers.
Speaking of education, your captain's just graduated with a BSc, and she's on her way to becoming, I don't know, a scientist, a doctor, I don't know what, but a lot of you ladies have got university degrees. Is that correct?
Got that in my last year. Imagine that. But
I mean, really? Come on.
No. My mom is an educator. She said, please, my child, just give me one wish. I said, say less, say less. I know I owe to my mom. I did this cricket for myself, but for my mother, she will get one. Mom, I got you. But I think when you look at Laura, like, she's someone that we know what her passion is with medicine. I think there was a decision she had to make when she got to matric, where she actually got in for med school. And she had to just park it. But I think what she's done is incredible to just show, like people that you can actually study on the job. And I mean, it's later nights than normal, but it's also worth it. And once the curtains close, you don't want to wonder, like, what am I going to do? Some people are born to be coaches, which is not me. Some people are born to just be Wolf. Yeah, Wolf is very smart. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, can I just get like 1% of your brain cells? Like just one. Like
all of us
no,
would
no,
like
no.
1%.
Wolfie is incredibly smart. Like if any, no. She's incredibly smart, and I think she's gonna be an amazing doctor one day. I know it's gonna happen. Dr. Wolfart. Yeah, it makes sense. It fits.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So now let's talk this World Cup. So South Africa losing semi-finalists in 2017 and 2022. This World Cup is being played in conditions where I guess we would say maybe India are the favorites. Australia come in obviously with a great record. How do you see your chances, and how do you see this tournament playing out? Are teams getting stronger? Do you look at India and think, oh gosh, it's definitely their time? Or just going in, what's your feeling?
I feel like every team has worked extremely hard to get to the World Cup. You can't judge anyone's prep, because I think we all knew that coming into World Cup, you have to have 100% or nothing. That's my mindset. And I mean, all the teams are getting stronger. The conditions are suitable for a number of teams, actually. And when I look at our chances, I think they're high up there. You can't go to the World Cup without thinking that you're going to get over the line, because I think you're wasting your time. And when no, man, like I'm not literally focused on any other opposition besides what we are doing right as a team. Because as soon as you gonna put attention to others, you're literally messing up all the work that you've done. And I know that our first game is against England, and I think now our prep is towards that. And then we're literally gonna just take it one day at a time, one game at a time, and then until you get to where we need to be as a team.
Mentioned not looking too much into other teams' preps and that sort of thing, but I guess you mentioned England there, your first opponents, and they've been through quite a change in terms of new captain, new coach, that sort of thing. I don't know how much you were able to catch of their playing over their summer. They had series against West Indies and later India, but how do you sum up England as an opposition? Do you see them as a bit of a team still settling, or just based on your experience and the personnel they have, what do you make of England?
Yeah, like obviously I've spoken to the likes of Chloe Chuan. She's played under Charlotte Edwards at the Southern Brave before, and also Mumbai Indians. And she said she's a very articulate coach. Everything has its own processes. So obviously, we know they're gonna be probably a well-polished team leading up to it. And yeah, I think I just trust my team and the prep that we've done. And I mean, when you look at your opposition like England, they will always bring stability. They'll always bring the various different skill sets. You've got people that will reverse well, that will lap well. Like they bring like a holistic view. But I think us as a team is to just keeping it simple. I think throughout the World Cup, just mastering your own space, your own skill, and what your role is, make sure you right up there. Because that's going to be the difference between winning and losing in this World Cup, is literally who was patient longer. And I mean, when you look at 50 over World Cup, it's a true test of character. Because you might start bad, but that doesn't guarantee you losing the game, because you got so much time to catch up. Because I feel like with cricket, nothing is ever smooth. You have to go through. So I think the team that takes the pressure moments the best is the one that's going to get over the line.
Sure. And just in terms of, we spoke about the team's success at the last two T20 World Cups, finishing as runners up. Obviously, to win this one's going to be, a huge deal, and it's what everyone wants. But how special would it be for this group of players, many of who have been through that runners up the last couple of times in the T20s? How special would it be for a lot of those players to get this one under the belt?
I always look at someone like Ayabonga Kaka, Marizan Cup, and Masabata Class. They've literally been the ones that have been in the squad since we even thought that we're going to play cricket or not. And so when you look at them and you're like, I really, really want to win it for you guys. I really, 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 just to cap you guys off. So if you do potentially say, this is my last one, we can all be like, cool, thank you. Like, I think when you look at them, like, you always be like, Jeepers, I really want to get it over the line for you guys. And I look at how hard each of them work, and you're like, I really want to do it. Really, like, in my heart, it would just be like, okay, cool, I'm done.
You don't have to be done. You said you're going to keep going.
No. I'm still young. I said it last year. I'm still young. But for them to be like, my work here is done. Like, okay, you can go in peace now. Bye.
Now me.
Yeah.
Nah, not yet. I'm young.
Sinalo, the tournament will be played in India, and I just want us to end off with talking about what that would be like. I covered the 2017 World Cup in England, which was a game changer for the women's game in that suddenly we had marketing, we had television. Kapi was remembering it was one of the first times they were on TV, and it really brought attention to the women's game. This feels like another kind of landmark moment, a World Cup in India, potentially billions of eyes on the tournament, huge crowds that we're hoping for. What kinds of things do you think a World Cup in India can do for women's cricket?
I think there's going to be a lot of electrical feeling within the stadiums. I think it's going to be really loud. People in India just love cricket. We've been fortunate enough to been able to go there a few times, and every time we've gone there, we'd be like, these humans love cricket. And I know we've picked up our own supporters along the way. And you get the fight for, ma'am, can I just get your shirt? And you're like, no, but okay. Um, but just the love and just the support that they don't care if it's women's or men's cricket. They just love the game of cricket. And you know that you're guaranteed to have loud stadiums. And I think for the teams, it's literally who's going to be able to just quieten everything up and just execute. And yeah, we also have a few games in Sri Lanka, and we were fortunate enough to be there in April, and we know what the conditions are like there. So you could potentially say we had like a curtain raiser. So yeah, us as a team holistically, we're really ready, and we've just been, and I mean the batting and the bowling coaches have had a massive emphasis on please just adapt to the conditions earlier. It's not like you're playing at Wanderers now, or at Centurion. You're playing at the subcontinent country where the ball might come slow onto the bat. So are you disciplined enough to just take out your whole game plan and just adjust at that given point and what the team needs right at that moment?
Brilliant. It sounds like South Africa already. You're in Pakistan at the moment, preparing for that World Cup, and there'll be lots of eyes on you, Sinalo Jafta, and the South African team. Good luck, and we'll be watching the tournament with great interest. We're really looking forward to seeing how it goes, and thanks for taking time to chat to us here on ESPN Cricinfo Power Play.
Well, that was a really fascinating chat. I enjoyed it so much. So much to take out of that. I think one thing that really stuck with me, and it was very pre-World Cup focused, but it was where she said, they wanted to win it for some of the players that aren't necessarily going to be around beyond this. Thoughts of maybe Marizanne Kapp won't go around for another one-day World Cup, and really wanting to do it for her and others. And I guess there's that underlying sort of tone to this, not to mention, that they went so close at the T20 World Cup last year, so close at their home T20 World Cup the year before, and that, underlying, can they get over the line this time? So I guess, that's a question for us to look at too. Can they do it this time around?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think one thing, Velks, is that the curse is broken. In June at Lords, when Temba Bavuma lifted that mace, like 30 years of whatever just ended. And I think now that South African teams can actually go to tournaments and play with a little bit of freedom, which I think will probably mean that we see a slightly different South African team. I'll tell you that privately in the country, a lot of people said once the team wins one, the floodgates will open and South Africa will win World Cups like Australia used to. I don't quite know that they're there yet. I actually think this team has a better chance than what I thought maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And I'm basing that on their one-day series in Pakistan. They didn't do very well in the last game, but the first two games they won convincingly. Tasman Brits with big, big hundreds, 171 not out in the second game. Marizanne Kapp's looking good. She's in good form. The bowlers are maybe my slight concern because there isn't that pace of Shabnam Ismail and also that aggression. But I do think they've got a well-balanced outfit, and I think they've been building quietly. They haven't had a lot of games. They haven't been in the headlines a lot. But I do think they're a team that, if they don't reach the semi-finals, it'll be sort of crisis time. And I do think that they could go quite far. I'm not sure about all the way. And I was having a couple of private chats around who could go all the way. Two countries come up, Australia and India. And I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on that, having seen them both quite recently. I mean, which one of them is going to win?
Yeah, well, we spoke about this in the last pod because India had just toured England, and I said there that they really did look the goods. But I also said, don't ever discount Australia. Now, I stand by that, and even more so now, actually having seen those two play that warm-up series. And Australia won 2-1. So, you know, they were pushed a little bit by India, and I think India fans will take a lot from that. But I mean, look, we know this already. They've got an embarrassment of riches in terms of talent in that Australian side. The third one-day international, they scored 412. Beth Mooney, 138. We've got Georgia Voll, the new opener. She's still relatively fresh in that role. She and Elise Perry got 50s. So their batting lineup is really great. And obviously Elisa Healy is back from that long-term injury that's had her, on the road to recovery for the best part of this, a year really, since the T20 World Cup last year. But she's sort of back in the side. And I think India, as hosts, there's that as well. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know, the home ground advantage, how much do you put on that versus the pressure of, can they do this in their own backyard and win their first senior women's World Cup? So there is a lot of pressure on that India side. And I think Australia are just sort of ramping up that pressure on them. They just, they look their usual terrific selves. So, yeah, you're right. It's between the two of them. And we should probably end the show with predictions, but, spoiler alert, I'm still thinking Australia might run away with it. But, I think India are looking very, very good. I guess what were your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, look, seeing 400 in a women's game, I know we've seen it before. New Zealand have a couple of totals of 400 against the likes of Ireland. But 400 in a game between India and Australia, and pretty close game, I suppose. That was cool to see. I hope we're going to see some big scores. I've heard the pitches are going to be pretty flat around there. We've spoken of 3 teams that we think could make the semi-finals. My 4th team, I don't think you're going to be happy with this, but I don't think it's going to be England, because I have got this theory that England just overthink everything. And so they're not going to be the 4th team. I'm banking on one of Sri Lanka as a team that have got the advantage of playing a lot of games at home, as a team that have actually got players beyond just the one we always talk about in Chamari Atapattu. Kavisha Dilhar is a great player. They've got some very experienced bowlers, Inukarana Weera, for example. So I'm going between one of them, and I was going to say Pakistan, but every time I say that, something seems to happen. Like, every time I say Pakistan are going to do something good, somebody gets hit on the shin, like poor Fatima Sana in the game against South Africa. One thing I'm concerned about with Pakistan is I don't know how well they're being captained, to be honest. We saw a game the other day where Diana Baig didn't bowl until the 23rd over, which is, unusual. But Muniba Ali is in great form. They've got Nashra Sandhu taking fifers. They've got Centurions now. Sidra Amin's just got 100. So I wonder if between Pakistan and Sri Lanka we have our 4th semi-finalist. But you have to make the case for England, because that's your job.
I'm not going to surprise you here. No, in fact, I think I am probably going to surprise you. We have been in our sort of look ahead to the World Cup, thinking through where we think each team's going to finish. And I was racking my brains for thinking, can I make a case for England to be in the top 4 and reach their semis? I'm like, I think that would be a really good performance for them if they were to make it. After the series where India travelled here, Charlotte Edwards, the England head coach, said for us to make the final would be a great achievement. I think to make the semis would be a good achievement. I'm looking at, in terms of the top 4, so we've spoken about Australia and India, and I was like, could it be South Africa and New Zealand? New Zealand are so interesting because they've got that T20 World Cup under their belt. And do they sort of ride a bit of a wave, into this World Cup? However, they've played 2 warm-ups, unofficial warm-ups against England, and lost both of them. Pretty close games, to be fair. England won by 3 wickets and 17 runs in each of those. Maddie Green scored a century in the first, so she's in good form with the bat. Susie Bates, Georgia Plimmer got 50s in the second at the top of the order, so looking all right there. For England, I guess their key performers have been Emma Lamb, She
Yeah.
got a 60 in that first game. Heather Knight is back for the first time since injuring her hamstring in at the start of the English summer, really, against West Indies. She was in the runs with a 41. And Danny White-Hodge, who's back having not played one-day internationals during the summer, they sort of recalled her to bolster the middle order using her experience there. She got a 45 in that opening game. So, she was sort of in the runs, and Sophia Dunkley got a 50 in the second. So they're there and thereabouts, but, haven't got someone like a Maddie Green who's gone out and torn it up and scored a century yet. An interesting thing for England also is we've got Nat Sciver-Brunt back bowling. She didn't bowl in the first match, bowled in the second, took 2 wickets. And that's the first time she's really bowled since the WPL final in March.
Wow,
She's had a long-standing Achilles problem, and it was always going to be a race against time as to whether she was going to actually be able to play a fully fledged all-rounders role at this World Cup. She's back with ball in hand, but it's been a long time and she's still building toward being able to play a role. That said, England have gone with their 4-pronged spin attack. So they've, gone heavily on spin there for this World Cup. So it's probably one where, Sciver-Brunt can ease into that, seam bowling role. So long story short, in terms of making a case for England to reach the semi-finals, I just think I don't know that they've had long enough. I mean, they were, devastated by that T20 World Cup, exit in the group stages. The Ashes, they lost, they didn't win a game. They lost 16. Neil had a complete overhaul of coach, new captain, what have you. And they've only played 14 games, and only 6 of those have been one-dayers since the new regime took over. So I just don't know how much time they've had to really bed into a routine. And you mentioned Pakistan. I actually was thinking, maybe they would be my pick for sort of a surprise runner there. Like you said, the former Sidra Amin, they have, been performing quite well in this series against South Africa. And interestingly too, this game is going on as we speak, but South Africa were bowled out for, 115 inside 26 overs. I noticed they didn't have Tasman Brits, they didn't have Marizanne Kapp. So are they just giving their other players a bit of a run in this game, do you think?
Yeah, it certainly seems to be that way. The other thing that they've got is oppressively hot conditions, and of course that should maybe affect the bowling team first. But they've had these games very close together, and by all accounts, the heat is really taking it out of the players, and they're hoping for some cooler conditions once they get to India and to Sri Lanka. They're kind of emptying the bench a little bit, giving other players a go. We see young Karabo Miso, she's just 17, and she's playing in this match as well. So it's interesting to see. You still don't want to blow out like being bowled out for 115, which is exactly what's happened. But the team we haven't spoken about, Bangladesh, who qualified through that qualifier in Pakistan. And I think they're flying under the radar here. It was kind of them or West Indies. They got in ahead of West Indies. They've got a great captain in Nigar Sultana Jati, an excellent bowling attack, varied bowling attack in that they've got the pace of Marufa Akhtar. They've got loads of spin options. Maybe the batting a little bit thin, but I think they could spring a surprise or two in the tournament, and I think they'll punch a little bit above their weight. So, what I'm hoping actually is that we get a really competitive World Cup as opposed to one team running away with it, which sometimes tends to happen. Other than team predictions, I thought maybe something that we probably want to think about is who are we very sad to see for what could potentially be the last time, and who are we very excited to see for what will be the first time. But since it's my crazy idea, I'll go first. So
Please, I like it.
I'll be very sad to see what I think will be Megan Schutt's final One Day World Cup. I think she played her first World Cup in India that she spoke to us about when we chatted to her last year for that long feature that can still be found on the website. She's got all these amazing skills as a bowler in terms of her cutters, the way she uses the in-swinger. And I think if there is a bowler that could, I predicted this last time and I was wildly wrong, and as the leading wicket taker, it would probably be her. So that's who I'll be sad to see go. And excited to see. I'm going to go with Karabo Meso. I'm not sure that she'll play many games, but she is such a talent. She won the SA Schools T20, which is a kind of development T20 competition we have here in South Africa. She's a good batter. She's a tidy wicket keeper, and I think she's could end up as one of South Africa's best. So to see her, 17 years old, at a World Cup where she could be writing her first university exams or whatever the case might be, will be really, really cool. And I'm really excited to see her. How about you?
Sad to see go. I'm going to go another Australian as well. I think this will be Elisa Healy's last one day World Cup. I mean, she has just been, such a pivotal player for that side for so long, and still is. And I think that we won't see her go around in this format again. And I think that's really sad, because just seeing her, memories of the last 50 over World Cup and sort of tearing it up. But yeah, I just sort of will really miss that. And excited to see. I'm going to go with one of the home country players in Kranti Goud. I was incredibly impressed by the India seamer when she was out here touring England. She was the leading wicket taker by quite some distance. She got 9 wickets in the one dayers over here, and the next best were the 2 of the England spinners with sort of 5 and 4 respectively. So she was sort of streets ahead there, and she also performed really well in that second one-day international that was a warm-up between India and Australia just recently, which India won quite convincingly. That one, actually, she took 3 for 28 there, so she's in good form at this time as well. It wasn't just like she had a good tour of England. She's still right up there, so I'm really excited to see her progress.
Oh, excellent. And I guess, we should have some kind of predictions, but we're so bad at them that I'm just not actually sure that it's worth it. I guess, one of the things we're wanting to see is good crowds. We know that tickets are affordable. And even though maybe they went on sale a little bit late, people can still get their hands on them. We're hoping to really see a revival of interest, I suppose, in the women's game. And I think back to the 2017 World Cup in England, which that was the first women's tournament I covered, actually, and it's almost 10 years ago now. But it really felt as though, hang on a moment, this is something to be taken so seriously, right? And the sport is so interesting, nuanced and interesting in different ways to men's cricket. So I wonder if we're going to get a little bit of that at the tournament. Maybe you want to predict, you already said Australia, didn't you? So maybe we don't have to make you predict a winner. Maybe you can ask me to predict something that isn't the winner so that we can see how wrong I'll be this time.
Okay, so all right, we're not going to pick a winner. Have you actually picked? Oh no, you've picked your dark horse because you think Pakistan can be there or thereabouts, yes, potentially, and Bangladesh caused a couple of upsets. So what is something that we are going to see at this Women's World Cup that we have never seen before?
I'm tempted to say something like 350 being chased, because I think it's going to be flat. But actually, having now reflected on what happened to us in the UAE, where we saw 9 bazillion catches go down and teams were just dropping the ball like you can't believe, I think we are going to see a couple of excellent, real stunners, and maybe even the fewest catches dropped at a World Cup. If it's even possible to count that, I don't know. But in general, I think we're going to see a much better fielding performance from teams. And I say that having looked at South Africa, who I don't think they've put a catch down in ages, just been watching Pakistan over this series. They're also catching reasonably well. Australia don't drop much. New Zealand don't drop much. So I think we're just going to see better fielding. And of course, there won't be a ring of fire. So that will hope, if it turns out to be that way, then we'll know Dubai's got to tear that place down and build a new stadium because no one can catch there.
Yeah, bring it on. I mean, that was a huge criticism of England as well. I mean, that's where they exited the T20 World Cup, was just all those drop catches against West Indies. And that's clearly been a focus of them ever since. During the home summer, you could see quite early on, actually, that had been a focus. And then, there were a couple of fumbles and you think, oh no, are they going back that way again? But it was clearly an area that they've been working on. So I'm all for that one. Let's bring that on.
Yeah, let's hope so. So we have got some hopefully special plans for our listeners and viewers through the World Cup. We're going to have a team on the ground, and hopefully they'll be bringing us some interesting content from the players that they come across. We will, of course, be covering it from our homes and watching it along with a host of men's cricket. I mean, really, October is, if you don't work in cricket, it's amazing. I think if you work in it, you're starting to wonder how you're going to manage the month. But there's going to be so much great cricket to watch, and I think people will be really excited to keep tabs on this Women's World Cup. It could be a landmark one. It could be the one where we see India win the World Cup and potentially change the game forever. So, if that's what happens, then I'll root for them.
That sounds like a lovely note to end it on. So thank you very much. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Power Play.